Premium quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. Sound good? If so, check out the sponsor of today's video, jerseyfifa.com. You can see that I've sent you some shirts and they really are top quality, so make sure to click the link in the description to go find a shirt for yourself or perhaps as a gift for someone else. And you can now use code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. I really do recommend their product, so go take a look. Now let's get into the analysis. So I think as we were heading towards the transfer window a couple of months ago, we all thought that Mbappe to Real Madrid would be the big transfer saga that would maybe drag through the summer. However, that didn't happen, with Mbappe making quite a quick decision. Therefore, I would like to hand the title of most entertaining transfer saga to Raphinha of Leeds. So in this video I'm going to break down his strengths and weaknesses as a player, before then discussing how he'd fit into a few different teams. But first I need to break down the saga. So initially we all thought Raphinha was going to Barcelona, then Arsenal came in and it looked like they had secured the deal. Chelsea then hijacked it last minute and Barcelona have now hijacked them. With all that going on, I honestly have no idea where he's going to end up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Port Vale making a last-ditch attempt to sign him, but for now I want to avoid the different teams and first focus on his strengths as a footballer. So I think everyone that has watched Raphinha play would probably agree that his standout quality is his dribbling ability, and that's because every time he gets the ball into his feet, he almost immediately looks to try and get at his opposing defender. Now, whilst Raphinha is quick, he isn't a player that just relies on pace, and instead he prefers to operate with a little more subtlety, regularly throwing in step-overs and various other skills in an attempt to completely bamboozle the defender. Now, this might make some players a little predictable if they are always looking to get at their man, but this isn't the case for Raphinha because he plays with a real sense of unpredictability, simply because he is so capable of going either way. As a result of this, it is extremely difficult for defenders to read him, which means that more often than not he is able to work himself just half a yard of space with the ball, and then having worked this space for himself, he is brilliantly creative. As well as creating for others, Raphinha also loves to get himself a goal as well, and in fact since joining the Premier League he has been Leeds' second highest goal scorer, despite starting out wide, so that really displays his finishing ability. Now, whilst the most exciting things from Raphinha come when he has the ball at his feet, he also contributes out of possession as well, and it's unsurprising that a player who played under Bielsa for a few years is incredibly hard working off the ball. This has been seen when we look at his FBref report, where he ranks pretty well in almost every defensive aspect of the game, for a winger, and this is perhaps something that really separates him from most other tricky wingers around Europe at the moment. This has been noticed on a slightly wider scale as well, earning Raphinha a fair share of call-ups to the Brazil squad, and based on recent matches it does look as though he is a big part of Brazil's plans as we head towards the World Cup this year. So we've broken down some of Raphinha's strengths as a player, so now I want to try and figure out how he could potentially fit into a few different teams and systems. So we'll start with how he would work at Chelsea if that is the move he makes. So whether or not Raphinha signs for the club, I think it is reasonably fair to assume that Tuchel will keep Chelsea in their somewhat successful 3-4-3 shape, in which case Raphinha would play as an inside forward from the right. Now, playing in this area would give Raphinha an element of freedom to roam about into different positions. However, I think most of the time he would be expected to play in this sort of zone, or half space in a sort of in-between position. Playing in this sort of area would create a real expectancy for Raphinha to create chances for others in and around the box, whilst also being expected to chip in with a good number of goals over the course of the whole season. Now, looking at his performances last season, it would appear as though Raphinha has the ability to do that. 11 goals in a struggling team is a very impressive return, although I do think he would be demanded to grab more assists at Chelsea. Raphinha could of course be helped by the link-up that he could develop with James at wing-back, because we know that James likes to vary his play, which would create the perfect opportunity for Raphinha to attack on the outside or down the inside. This is the sort of thing that Tuchel really looks for in a player. He loves players that are able to bring an element of adaptability, which we know Raphinha will bring. Whilst Raphinha would also be up to Tuchel's pressing methods as well. The signing of Raphinha could also lead to a potential formation change with Chelsea, with Tuchel perhaps switching to a back four into more of a 4-2-3-1 shape, allowing him to get an extra player into his attacking setup. For all of the reasons that I have just discussed, I do think that this would be a brilliant move for Chelsea to make. He would be perfect. For Raphinha it would be a slight position change, but personally I think he is more than capable of adjusting his game. Now, having said all of that, a week ago it didn't look like a move to Chelsea was even possible for Raphinha, because everything we were hearing was that he was almost certainly moving to Arsenal, so let's take a look at how that could work out. So if Raphinha was to sign for Arsenal, then I do think that he would be coming into a slightly more familiar role than the one at Chelsea, either in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, allowing him to play as an out-and-out right winger. Now if this was the case, then I think that we would probably see Tomiyasu playing a slightly tucked in position like he did last season, and of course as a result this would allow Raphinha to play much higher and wider on the wing. This would be perfect for Raphinha because it would be very similar to the sort of position that he played at Leeds, and in fact we can see in his heat map that he has very often looked to keep the width for large periods, really looking to stretch the pitch. Playing in this sort of role could also make Raphinha and Arsenal extremely deadly in the transition. Now this was something that we saw from Arsenal last season, and there is every reason to believe that Raphinha would improve this even further. I also think that Arteta would enjoy what Raphinha offers out of possession as well. We know that Arsenal like to play with a lot of energy and really press high up the pitch early on in games, so again Raphinha could literally be perfect. Whilst Raphinha would help the team out of possession, I think the fans are probably more excited about what he could potentially do on the ball, because we all know that he is constantly on the move and looking to make things happen going forward. This is arguably what Arsenal need most. They have a lot of nice attacking patterns, but occasionally struggle to break teams down. Raphinha could be someone to come in and really be that little bit of gold dust that the team is currently lacking. So again, with all of that put together, I think that this would be a brilliant signing, and I think we're starting to see just why so many teams are interested in him, and at one point Arsenal did look like the most likely, but they weren't the first to show interest. So what I've read in reports is that Barcelona were the first team to really show interest in Raphinha back in February, and now they are once again looking to bring him in, and at the time of recording they probably look the most likely. So if brought in, then the task for Raphinha would be to fill the boots of Ousmane Dembele. At one point this wouldn't have seemed like a difficult task, however during the second half of last season, Dembele was absolutely phenomenal. If Raphinha was to make the move to Barcelona, then I think there would be an expectancy for him to do something very similar, with the left winger playing quite narrow, leaving Raphinha to play much wider on the right hand side of the pitch once again. Of course playing in such a wide position would allow Raphinha to constantly get the ball into feet before facing up against his opponent, and the potential to repeatedly get Raphinha into 1 versus 1 situations is a really frightening prospect. Now, as I was saying earlier on in the video, I would back Raphinha to beat his man more often than not to get into the final third, and of course once in this area, he would then have time to try and pick out a teammate with a cross. This is something that Barcelona will be desperate for, because Dembele done this so well last season, and I'm confident that Raphinha could come in and do something similar, although as I was saying earlier, he isn't a player that wants to become predictable. For this reason, I could see Raphinha holding a wide starting position from where he then has the choice to go either way, and I certainly think that we would see a fair amount of occasions where Raphinha looks to cut inside before then shooting at goal. On top of all this, we once again know that Raphinha will work hard out of possession, which again is something that Xavi demands. We followed Barcelona quite a lot during the second part of last season, and a big theme was pressing high up the pitch. As we know, that is a box that Raphinha would put a big tick through, so therefore, as with both Chelsea and Arsenal, I do believe that it would be a brilliant bit of business for Raphinha to join Barcelona, and this explains the state of the transfer window. I'm not at all surprised to see so many clubs in for him. Last season I felt that Raphinha was one of the most underrated and most underappreciated players in mainstream media, but now it looks like he's getting the recognition he deserves. Now, for all of the positives that I have just listed, there are sides of Raphinha's game that need work, because at times he can be just a little bit too audacious with some of the things that he tries, so perhaps that's something he will consider when he makes his move, because I'm sure, as with any player, Raphinha is someone that wants to improve, so perhaps whilst wanting a team that he immediately fits into, I'm sure he is also thinking about which manager will be the best for him to develop with. I'm sure there are so many other factors involved as well, and it's what makes this such a fascinating transfer saga, because there are so many different teams that he could go to and make an instant impact, and I can't decide where he should go, so that's where I need your help. Who do you think Raphinha should sign for? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.